Hey, you know how on cops they always blur out the bad guys' faces or offensive t-shirts? We're going to teach you how to do that using Adobe Premiere. We're using Premiere Pro CS4 today. So the first thing you're going to want to do is create a new project file and set all the properties you want, including where you want it to go. So we're going to put ours in this drive, in this folder, and we're going to name it TrackMat because that's what it's called. And hit OK. And choose whatever you want for your presets. Our sequence will also be named TrackMat. We're going with the default settings because that's all we need for our project. And then you're going to have to find the files that you're going to be using, the video that you want to edit. And you can either go to File and Import and edit that way, or you can just drag it in from another folder and add it to your project files here. And once you add that, you're going to want to put that video clip on your timeline twice, if it will drag properly, into both video 1 and video 2. And then you might want to kind of zoom a little bit so that you can have more space to work with here. The idea here, what we're doing with this, is that you're going to create a hole in one of the video tracks to show the other one, to let the other one show through, basically. So to create your track mat, you want to go to Title, New Title, Default Still, and we're going to name it New Mat. And the idea is that you want to create a white shape around what you want to blur out. In this case, we're going to blur out Megan's face. The idea is that you want it to be solid white because that's what it's going to pick up on. Make sure it's centered. Ellipses are good for faces. Depending on what you want to blur, that could be a different shape for you. Close out of that, and your new mat file will be over here in the corner. So you want to drag that down to video 3 and extend it to the duration of your clip that you want to do, so that way it covers up the whole way. See, the problem here is now when you go through, oh well, that's too far through, but when you go through the clip it doesn't move, so now we want it to move. And we do that by going to Effect Controls in the top panel up here, scroll down Motion and click Position so that it animates. And you obviously want to start it here. You go over to the end of your file, and you can just click up here and drag it. Oh no, you can't. That's an issue. Yes, you can. You click over here and you drag it so that it covers up the face that you want. And then it's easy from this point. If you just kind of cut your video in half, you want to just move it to there, and then you want to cut that in half. And just kind of make sure that it's covered anywhere that it's escaped. So like here, theoretically you really want to go in halves because that way it'll kind of follow itself, like not follow itself, but it'll kind of catch up if you go by halves. Unfortunately, we're kind of having some issues with the sideways, so we're going a little bit more than halves to make sure that we have our extreme motions on the side covered up properly. Depending on your video clip, this can be a tedious process. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to fast forward. So ideally, eventually, your shape will follow your face around pretty perfectly. And you can scroll through to make sure that it does so. Like so. And it seems to be working now. After this, once you've got that video to make sure that it's smooth and how you want it, you go down to Effects, or Video Effects in this bottom panel here, and you scroll down to Stylize, and you take Mosaic is what you want. This is what's going to give you that blur effect. And you drag it up to video 2 so that it applies to video 2. And up here, if you want, you can change your scale so that it's more or less blurry depending on how you want it. These were pretty arbitrary, but that's okay. And then you go back down to this effects panel and you go up to keying, and scroll that down. You get the track matte key, drag that onto video 2 as well. Scroll that down, and when it says matte, you choose video 3, so that way it knows that it applies it to that matte. And theoretically, this should work. And you see, as we play through the video, that it does in fact blur out only her face as she moves back and forth, and up and down. And, I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. And that works pretty well. So now we have to export it, obviously, so that it will be visible and uploadable to whatever media form you want. You go over to File, Export, Media here. And in our case, we want to export to YouTube because we want to put this lovely clip up on YouTube. So H.264 is the easiest codec that works with that. And then the preset we want. We only filmed in standard definition, so we want YouTube standard definition. And all the rest of this seems pretty good. Click OK, and it'll export your data with Adobe Media Encoder. And I mean, obviously it's going to take its dear sweet time to do that, but eventually it will export your video in whatever file type you need, and it'll save it to wherever you want it to. Thanks for watching our tutorial on using track mattes in Adobe Premiere. Happy blurring!